Coming up on this episode, I talk about discomfort and how being uncomfortable in life can maybe be of benefit to you. What's going on, beautiful people? This is Perspective Chasers podcast, and I'm your host, John. On this episode, I want to talk about discomfort and how being comfortable with being uncomfortable really can get the ball rolling for you. The thing is, there's a lot of life in which we become comfortable and that stops us progressing. When you're comfortable, when your belly's full, you're not looking for that next meal. When your needs are met, you're not looking for the next venture. You're enjoying the things, you're smelling the roses. And that's okay once in a while. But when you sit in that too long, you end up festering and you stagnate. And stagnation ain't good for anybody. So being comfortable with being uncomfortable is going to be a massive life skill for a lot of us to learn. It's something that I've learned to an extent throughout my life, but I constantly relearn. There's varying aspects of discomfort, and there's some situations where you're more comfortable being uncomfortable than others. So, for example, I'm very comfortable with physical discomfort. I can train through pain, I can sit through pain when it comes to tattoos or injections or whatever it is. My pain threshold is fairly high. That comes from what I've been through in my life, being exposed to X amount of physical pain and building up a tolerance over time. To the point where I probably find a little bit of a sadistic pleasure in the pain. At least, for me, tattoos are a form of therapy because I can find a silence within that pain. That when I'm in pain, I can center in on it and not shut it out, but accept it for what it is and enjoy it for what it is. It's just another feeling at the end of the day. It's not necessarily good or bad. It is just a feeling. Sometimes you can be in good pain, sometimes bad pain. It's down to you to differentiate between the two. But that doesn't always translate to every aspect of life. So it took me a lot longer to get to grips with social discomfort than it did physical discomfort. Like I say, physical discomfort was something I was fairly conditioned with from a young age. But social discomfort, not so much. There are so many things where we're taught to kind of fit into society and not go against the grain. But the reality is, for me anyway, it's when I started going against the grain that I started to not just fit in more, but things started to fit around me more. Because before and this was when I was very young, in my teenage years, I used to let myself get pushed around in those social situations a little bit. Not because I couldn't hold my own, but because I wanted to be accepted. So I didn't want to lash out verbally or physically or in any way to people when they poked the proverbial bear. But it weren't until I stopped just taking the hits on the chin and I started giving a few back of my own where people realized that I'm cool sitting in the awkward silence of if you've insulted me and I've come back harder and now you've got to sit with that. I'm fine sitting in that awkwardness because I didn't initiate it. And that translates into jokes, or obviously as a guy growing up, there's a lot of tit for tat kind of behavior and insults flying around and just boys being boys, a lot of guys checking each other or whatever else. So there's a lot of instances where sometimes you don't want to start the altercation, or you don't want to be uncomfortable in that situation. You don't want to put that person in the place because you might not put them in their place. They might come back even harder and da 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 da. But nothing's ever going to change if you just sit there and you take it. That's at least what I learned. So being there and taking it and just Having the discomfort but internalizing it instead of saying no, like I'm not gonna take X, Y, or Z. That then creates a level of discomfort because it's conflict. Obviously, we tend to try to avoid conflict as much as possible in social situations because we're a social creature. But sometimes that altercation is needed. Sometimes that's what creates the harmony, is that kind of awkward silence and sitting in it. And for a young guy anyway, that's kind of a hard lesson to learn because nobody tells you to sit in the silence. Nobody tells you that if you go tit for tat with somebody and you come out on top, that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing either. But the fact that you was willing to stand up for yourself or willing to stand up for somebody else and not just roll over, that is always going to be a good thing because you wasn't afraid to confront the problem. Now, that translates into so many aspects of life because anytime you confront a problem, it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be comfortable, it's not going to be nice, but it has to be done. So the more kind of social situations where you can mediate through your life and learn that sometimes you do need to sit in the awkward silence. Sometimes you do need to be the bad guy in the room. Sometimes you need to be the good guy in the room. There's always going to be a situation where you need to be a X, Y, or Z. But that's not going to define you. So when you are in that uncomfortable period, understand that isn't the be all and end all. It's temporary. But if you go through that discomfort, no matter what aspect of life it is, if you go through the physical pain to have an operation, a procedure, whatever it is, if you go through the pain of working out and dieting and everything else, and you achieve your goals that way, if you go through the pain of studying and sleepless nights or saving and working hard and building an empire, whatever it is, if you go through that discomfort, the reward that awaits you on the other side will be far better than anything you could have wished for if you never faced it. Because the thing is, there'll be so many people that are put off from getting to the other side simply because they're not willing to go through the pain that you are. They're not willing to go through the discomfort you are. So if you are willing to go through that a little bit more than anybody else, you will get more than anybody else. And it might not be what you think, but it will be something more. It will be something that will take your life down a whole new avenue. But the catalyst is always going to be discomfort. So no matter where you are in your life, understand if you're comfortable, you're at risk of stagnating. So ask yourself, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to achieve? And what is it that's going to make you uncomfortable? What is going to put you in that position where you have to grow in order to get through it? Not just positions that you're going to skate through and find easy, but the positions where you have that awkward conversation with somebody, or you challenge yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is. You put yourself in that uncomfortable situation in order to grow. The more you can voluntarily do that, the more you will grow. Because it's against that adversity that we grow. It's against those challenges that we strengthen our character. So unless you're willing to go through it, you're not going to get there. And there is a lot of people that ain't willing to go there. There are a lot of people jumping in that plunge pool for a second at a time and not getting anywhere near the benefits they can, simply because they can't sit in the discomfort. But if you can sit in the discomfort, you can get so many more benefits. That's going to apply to so many aspects of life. It's going to apply to health. It's going to apply to wealth. It's going to apply to life in general, relationships. You name it, it's going to apply. No matter how comfortable you are, you're never going to strive for more with all of your might until you're uncomfortable again. So see where in life you can make yourself uncomfortable. It might be picking up a new hobby. It might be meeting some new people. It might be doing something new. But understand, every time you put yourself in that situation, you're giving yourself an opportunity to grow. And it's not always going to be easy, and it's not always going to be nice. But the more you can do it, the more you can grow. And the more you do it over time, the more conditioned you would become to do it. So let's take like cold plunging or whatever else, for example. When I go to cold plunge, there's no hesitation in my mind, because I know no matter how unbearable it's going to be, I'm going to push myself through it. It's just the mechanics of it. One foot in front of the other until you're in, and then submerged. It's final. The rest is focusing on surviving it, breathing and focusing on the little things in the discomfort. And when you focus on those little things in the discomfort, you focus on the things that you can control. So for cold plunging, breathing. For social situations, your behavior and your response. The more you can control yourself through those times. And again, it's not to say it's going to be easy. It's not nice to sit in freezing cold water. It's not nice to sit in freezing cold silence. But sometimes it has to be done. Sometimes you have to sit in it and just let it ride. Because that discomfort is going to grow something. And I can't say what, but it's going to grow something that wasn't there before. So give it the opportunity. Don't be afraid of it. Have the awkward conversations, because those awkward conversations are going to be what grows friendships or grows relationships. And it might break a few. But if it does, maybe they weren't worthy of holding out anyway. It's sad reality, but also true. Not every friend is a friend for life. Some people just come into your life for a short time. That's fine. But understanding that the more you can have those awkward conversations, the more you can have those uncomfortable situations, no matter what aspect of life it is, not having the fear of confronting them is going to pay onto your life so much more than freezing in front of them. So take the time and be uncomfortable. It's not nice, but it will benefit you in the long run. I think I'm going to wrap that episode up there, because I can't remember what I have said and I haven't said it. That's the kind of problem with doing this on your own. But hey, we'll get there one day. The seed for this episode is going to be, see where you're being a bit lenient on yourself. Where are you shying away from the hard things? Where are you shying away from having that uncomfortable situation, having that awkward conversation, sitting in that cold water, having that brutal workout, whatever it is? See where you're wrapping yourself in bubble wrap. See where you're being a bit too nice to yourself, because we all do it. But that's not where we grow. So be uncomfortable. And again, mediate it. I'm not saying push yourself to the very extremes, but just leave that comfort zone a little bit. It might be a baby step at a time, but leave that comfort zone, because you'll learn far more than you'll ever know. And if you've got this far in this episode, leave a comment down below into the time that you have left your comfort zone. And let's try to build a reference for people where they can confirm that, okay, cool, if they are going to go through a bad situation, it's not going to be nice, but it's not going to be the end of it either. I can guarantee you I've been through some horrible situations in my life so far, but I'm still here going forward and able to talk to you about it. So see what you can do. Anyway, All the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.